Typical G4 guitar lesson. I was asked the question, what is a typical G4 guitar lesson and how should it be presented? The goal of every lesson is to condition a student into practicing. In other words, the lesson needs to be an idea of what they need to do in their 30 minutes of practice. So if you run a 30-minute lesson, try and get them to understand that this is conditioning for what they need to do at home each day. Assess the practice and progress. So that means have a look at how much practice they've entered into their log and how much progress they're making generally, and check their confidence levels. It's really important to check in with your students and make sure that they're feeling good about what they're doing. If they have any doubts or fears or concerns, that they express them with you so you can then help them. Okay, how do we start? Let's start out with a warm up and a review, 5 minutes. Begin with picking. I start every single lesson with picking, and that gets the student into the rhythm of actually using the pick. The next thing is to check their practice log to make sure that they've been entering in the practice and doing practice. Remember, the practice log is an early indicator of whether or not a student is losing interest or confidence. And also check their checklist. And give them a little bit of a chance to ask questions. The beginning is the time to ask questions, and just if they bring those questions up, then you can either answer them at the time or through the lesson. Okay, the second thing to do is to cover no more than 2 skills, 15 minutes. Example, chords and rhythm. So you might do a little bit on chords, a little bit on rhythm. Try and relate them to the songs that they're learning, so that when you learn a chord, that it should actually be applied in a song that they're going to be learning soon. Same with the rhythm. But of course you're going to go through the standard rhythm patterns, but if you can show how they work with a song, even better. And make sure you keep them actually playing. Try not to get bogged down too much in explanations. If you spend too much time talking about it, the lesson will be over in no time at all, and the student will feel like they haven't got anything out of the lesson other than you talking. So it's really important that you keep them busy and working. You want to, like I said, you want to make it a practice session so they feel that it's been like a session of practice and that they've actually had a good workout. Okay, once you finish that, then you want to spend 5 minutes on a song. Generally, you won't have more than enough time to do one song. You might do 2 songs if the first song was going well. The idea is that you want to relate that song back to the skills that they've been learning, preferably. You can't always do that, but if you can, it's preferable. Try and keep it bite-sized and achievable, so don't give them too much. Don't make it too difficult. If you give them too much, they'll go home, they'll forget it, they'll feel overwhelmed, and that can lead them to losing confidence and giving up altogether. And rotate the songs. You don't need to do the same song every week, especially when you've done it for several weeks. They'll start to get pretty bored with it. So the idea is that you rotate the songs. So that you want to have a couple of songs that they're learning, work on different ones at different times, and remember that you're just building up the songs, and let them know that the songs take time, and that it's all about developing the skills, and the songs will take time to build up. Okay, in the last 5 minutes you want to review the lesson. Compare the lesson to what they need to do at home, so just sort of tell them that at home I want you to repeat the process today. In other words, do some picking to begin with, do 2 skills, work on your song, and repeat that each day. Ask questions. So that means you ask questions and they ask questions. Ask questions like, how did you find the lesson? Do you understand what you're supposed to do? And highlight 3 points at the very end. So just pick 3 things. Try and say, if you can, work on that chord I gave you, the G chord, the D chord, etc. Practice that scale and work on that song. And that way you just get 3 clear points at the end. And even if they remember one of those points, then it's been worthwhile. Okay, points to remember as a teacher. Stay in tune with your student. Make sure you're connected with how they're feeling and their level of confidence. Involve the parents. It's really important that the parents are involved in the process and understand what's going on. And be flexible. So you don't have to run every lesson exactly to this plan. This is just a general idea of how to run your lessons. There'll be times when you may just want to skip the whole idea and work on a song and just and to bring the student back into the game if they're feeling a bit down or a bit unmotivated. But just make sure that you generally follow this system, and then have those weeks where you are flexible. You might also get questions sometimes that the student wants to sort of delve into, so you can do that as well. But just make sure that doesn't happen all the time, that it's just the occasional thing. Okay, the last point I want to make is the self-assessment. That means you as a teacher, take notes. Take notes on yourself. How well did you perform? Did you deliver a good lesson? Look at yourself as a teacher and as a performance as a teacher, and ask yourself how you went. Take notes as you go. The student doesn't know whether you're taking notes about them or about yourself. Just write it on a piece of paper that they're not looking at, and then you've got those notes to review at the end of the lesson. Ask questions. In other words, ask questions to yourself and ask them to myself at G4, or friends or family, anybody. Ask the questions that you've gotten from the notes that you've taken. In other words, you might have a question about whether or not you how to handle a particular situation, and by asking that question, people will give you their input and you can take their ideas or leave them. And lastly, take all that information and then plan ahead for your next week. So whatever challenges you faced in this particular week, you can then plan for that for the following week and apply it and see how it goes. Thanks guys, hope that helps and gives you an idea of what a typical G4 guitar lesson looks like.